All right, everybody, this is Sean, the What's Up Dude. We are driving, as you can see. We are on historic Route 66, and we are headed to a spooky prison in Joliet, Illinois. And we're going to go through and see what we can find and have a little fun. All right, we are now on State Street. Originally in 1926, this was Route 66 until they moved it. But we are headed down to the Joliet Prison. Right here we are driving, and this is the prison. And we're going to park, and we will show you the gates, and then we will show you the inside as well. All right, we are in front of the Joliet Prison, and you can see in the background, and we are going to head inside and get tickets to the tour, and then we'll show you inside. This is Sean, the What's Up Dude. So, the Old Joliet Prison, the Illinois State Penitentiary at Joliet, from 1858 to 2002, is synonymous with the city of Joliet, incorporated only 6 years prior to the prison in 1852. Through the years, it has been known as Joliet Correctional Center. Collins Street Prison, the Joliet State Penitentiary, is known simply as the Old Joliet Prison. The long-standing presence of the prison has solidified Joliet's reputation as America's prison city. The Old Joliet Prison, also known as Joliet Correctional Center, housed numerous notorious criminals during its operation, including Leopold and Loeb, Babyface Nelson, and John Wayne Gacy. The prison, which operated from 1858 to 2002, also saw escapes, a prisoner takeover by the Black P. Stones, and became a filming location for movies like The Blues Brothers and the TV show Prison Break. John Wayne Gacy. The serial unaliver, also known as the Clown Unaliver, was an inmate at Joliet Prison. Babyface Nelson. The infamous bank robber and associate of Don Gillender spent time at Joliet Prison. Leopold and Loeb. These two young men, known for the crime of the century, were incarcerated at Joliet after kidnapping and unaliving Robert Franks in 1924. Richard Speck and James Earl Ray also served time at the prison, among many others. John Cole and accomplices. In 1945, a group of inmates, including John Cole, successfully dug a tunnel to escape the prison. In addition to John Cole's escape, Babyface Nelson was also known from escaping from Joliet Prison. Before we go to the inside of Joliet Prison, I did want to show you this. This originally was the women's prison, the sister building to Joliet Prison. But come in October, I will be back to take a tour of the haunted prison. So when the spooky season starts, I will be back. Like Scoob, it says haunted prison. Oh no! All right, we are headed inside, and we'll show you what's inside. Right here across the street, we can see the front entrance of the prison. This is also the front entrance in the Blues Brothers, where he first was released in the first part of the movie. For as long as it has held prisoners, the Old Joliet Prison was often the front lines of debates and disputes involving convict labor. Convict labor built the prison, and its first warden, Samuel K. Casey, also served as its general contractor. Under the supervision of the prison's Board of Commissioners, the practice of leasing inmate labor to open market was a publicly accepted and perfectly legal practice for decades. Right here, this is one of the industry buildings. As you can see over time, the inside and some of the roof and some of the parts of the building are starting to decay. But this is just one of the rooms that they used. Right now, we are in the yard where inmates would come out, and we do have a basketball net over there. They would come out and have activities. This is an access point for the guards. They would be able to come up here and come out into the yard if they needed to, if they needed to stop anything or they needed to get up here real quick. There's underground tunnels that they could use to get around fast to take care of any problems. There, that's one of the towers that the guards would watch from to make sure that nothing happened and that no one was trying to escape the prison. All right, we're headed inside of a building right now. And you can see they remodeled this a little bit, did some work on it. What this building was used for was to teach industrial trades to the prisoners, and so that when they get out, that they had some type of opportunities. And there's different rooms in here, including the old bathrooms. And here's an old Illinois Correctional Industries sign. All right, we are headed inside of another building. And it looks like there's some chairs and things for places for inmates to sit at. I'm not exactly sure what they used this for, but I believe it may have been visitations, but it could have been used for other purposes. And this is what's inside, and there's one of the doors. All right, and this right here is the yard. This is the basketball court and some of the seating areas. Now, this was featured in scenes from Prison Break. So you can see that. If you watch the film, you can see familiar sights. These are phones that the prisoners would use to contact their families or whoever they needed to call. And they would have limited time to make phone calls, but they would be able to do that here. After a long day of being in the yard, they would come right over here to these showers. They'd have to shower off before they headed back to their cells. And these are the two showers that they have. I believe there was more, but these are the two that are standing. This building right here, this is the Honor Dorm. This building was erected in the late 1800s. Like most structures through the prison, it was used as workshop for private companies who lease convict labor. Sanborn Fire Insurance map shows it was occupied by the Sells, Schwab and Company boot manufacturers and the Franklin Chair Company in later years. The upper level of the building was converted into an honor dome where inmates were exhibited exceptionally good behavior would reside in the dormitory setting in cubicles rather than cells. This building right here that you're seeing, this was the yard department, so they had equipment to uphold the grounds with the cutting of the grass, and so they stored the equipment to maintain and make sure everything was kept up. Right here, this is another tower where the guards will watch over the inmates and prisoners. And then we have one of the buildings. You can go inside. However, if you are visiting and you come up to a staircase and it's blocked off like this one, keep out. This is an access port to the underground tunnels. So you can't actually go into the tunnels safely anymore because they are flooded. Sometimes they do let people with outfits that are prepared for that kind of thing to go down there, which we do not have. And also this is to let air down into the tunnels. And we have some of the buildings here that they have locked, so you can't go inside. A lot of times they don't let you go inside because of safety concerns. So if the floor or anything is unstable, they don't want you wandering in places where they would be responsible for someone getting hurt. This is the shops and vocational schools. The Joliet Penitentiary housed many different shops throughout the years. In the early years, the products of these shops included shoes, cigars, marble, dress, limestone, rattan furniture, and wooden furniture. When the prison opened, prisoners were legally and publicly leased to lowest bidder for labor. We're gonna go ahead and go inside and see what they have in here. You have my phone inside. You can't actually walk into here, it's locked, but I just wanted to show you what's in here. It is a machine shop where they would make products. And we'll head into another building since we can't go any further. This is one of the original parts of the yard. Throughout the 19th century, the majority of the space inside the walls of the Old Joliet Prison was choked with warehouses, machinery, and equipment which supported its system of least convicted labor. Little, though, was given to any outdoor recreation, and moreover, the constant industrial activities in the proximity of the Joliet steelwork made the outdoor areas of the prison inhospitable. At only one time during the year were prisoners allowed to freely congregate outdoors, the 4th of July. We are headed over to the library, one of the few places that prisoners in the Old Joliet Prison found comfort and refuge was in the pages of the books found in the prison library. The library occupied the second story of the building at the time of the Old Joliet Prison closure. It was a legal requirement for prisoners to maintain a library for the benefit of the prisoners. This is inside of where the library used to be. It used to be full of books for the inmates. And so right now this is all that's left of it. This is the east gate. And it's closed off now, but this is where they used to bring prisoners in from the other side of the building. And luckily for us, the second floor of the library is actually still open to the public. So we're gonna go upstairs and check it out. Right now we're headed up these old metal stairs and we'll get a view of what is inside of this building. Scoop, I hope we don't see a ghost of a librarian. Oh no, ghost. And right here, we're gonna head inside. As you can see, this has been emptied out, but there used to be a ton of books. And right now, they've cleared everything out. Had little counters for the library. Right here, I believe those were the restrooms. These cells right here, some of the most notorious prisoners, they still allowed them to get books and read. However, when they came here to do that, they had to get locked inside for the safety of the guards and other inmates. Zoinks, man! It's a ghost! If you believe in ghost stories, there are legends and stories of people that have wandered these halls and corridors, that the ghost of John Wayne Gacy and some of the famous haunts still lurk the halls and jail cells of these buildings. Right here, this is the guard room. This is the laundry. The building seen here housed laundry facilities. This two-story structure was built in the late 1800s and is characteristic of the entire complex, constructed of Joliet limestone, quarried by prisoners according to an 1898 Stanborn fire insurance map. This structure was occupied by the Frankfurt Chair Company and one of the many private companies which leased convict labor. We'll go ahead and continue the tour and see what else we're able to see. Hopefully there's some more buildings we can explore. This is the chapel. Make ye a new heart and a new spirit, Ezekiel 18:31. The chapel was one of the very few places of comfort and refuge inside the walls of Old Joliet Prison. The inherent nature of the loss of freedom in prison, coupled with continuously protected activities like worship, made for a complex and at a time complicated relationships between the chapel and the rest of the penitentiary. In the early years of the prison, the emphasis of the chaplain's duties were not focused on religious instruction as much as they were meant to be a humane relief to the otherwise harsh and rigid discipline of the administration of the prison required. This is the school. Like the chapel, the school offered prisoners a glimmer of respite and opportunity in an otherwise dismal surrounding. Though not always in a straight line, decades of progressive thought in the Old Joliet Prison saw the note of education move from a passing thought into a priority. It is not a coincidence that both of the school and chapel, two pillars of efforts to reform prisoners, occupy the same structure. And right now the doors are locked, but we'll try to get a close-up of the building to show you what's actually in here. These are some of the classrooms. And like I said, anytime they do close off a building, it is for safety reasons. This is another area where you have a guard tower and a significant basketball hoop. Lincoln Burrows from Prison Break, one of the main characters. This is where one of the scenes was filmed. Right now we are headed inside of the West Cell Block entrance. We're gonna explore. Like Scoob, are we going in there? Yeah, but I don't want to. Alright, we're walking through some of the old sections of the prison. It's the stairs to the second floor. Can't go up there anymore. We're gonna walk over to some of the cells. And it's kind of an eerie vibe in here. This is where a lot of inmates spent most of their time. See, they didn't have much. They just had a little chair and a urinal. Oh, what was that? I felt something touch me. Oh. definitely a ghost hunter's vibe when you come down this hall. It's kind of creepy thinking of all the people that were in these jail cells. A lot of scary people that have done a lot of terrible things. My dad was talking about put yourself in this situation if you had to stay in these and nothing to do, nowhere to sleep. There's some very harsh conditions in these cells, and they worked the prisoners during the time when this jail was open. They were making the prisoners work so much that they didn't have time for themselves, so you can imagine that their mental state was most likely not the best. And we're gonna go. Scoop, this is scary. Yeah, it's dark in here. We've gone through and some dark hallways. Here's some more. Right here, this is actually where the guards would be. And they would keep an eye on the prisoners. And we're gonna head down another row of jail cells. And some of these look like a solitary confinement where they would be locked up. And the only thing they could do is send food in. So these are where, this is actually where some of the worst inmates were. So you can think of a lot of the Serial unalivers were probably in here, and some of the worst prisoners that you could imagine that were unstable. And just being here, actually, if you take the tour, I guess, and you walk through here, you do actually feel chills from just being in the same room as where horrible monsters were. And some of these cells are completely pitch black. So if they put a haunted house in here, it would be terrifying. But you really don't even need to do that because it's already creepy enough as it is. And if you can imagine walking through here with no sunlight and this whole building being pitch black, how terrifying that might be. But this is a whole row of solitary confinement. And really these windows right here, it's the only light that's coming through here. And we'll exit back out again into this little hall. Right here we actually do have one of the jail cells with the bed. So you can see what they actually lived. There would be an inmate up here and an inmate down here. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. This is the West Cell House. Completed in 1865, the turreted West Cell House was larger than its eastern counterpart because of the naturally lower terrain. The West Cell House included a fifth-tier gallery of 100 cells, whereas the East Cell House contained 400. And the West Cell House was a chief beneficiary of $5 million modernization of the Old Joliet Prison beginning in 1947 under Warden Joseph E. Reagan. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look inside of this door. So we have some more jail cells. Very similar. The only thing that's not inside of here is the beds. Right here, this is a jail cell. This is what it would look like kind of at nighttime. There's literally no light and it's pitch black inside of there. Right here, this is the actual visiting room. So this is where they had the administration buildings from the 1860s. The administration building, also known as the Warden's House, was the epicenter of the Old Joliet Prison. A 1930s newspaper article credited the building as the origin of the term, the Big House. This is the East Cell House, 1865. Completed in 1865, the East Cell House stands at 267 feet long, 55 feet wide, and 32 feet high, with floors flagged in stone. Originally, cells measured 4 feet by 7 feet by 7 feet tall and were furnished with iron bed frame, straw mattresses, pillows, wool blankets, stool, tin cup, and a bucket. So we're able to go inside and we'll head down into the East Cell Block. This right here, this is the guard room. We do have 2 floors of jail cells here. And here's the original with the metal bed frames. And with the wind, you do hear a howling noise, and it is very eerie in here. And you can see this is a very long hallway full of history and people that suffered for their crimes. Here's the prisoner. There's a room up there. Oh man, I told you this place was haunted. Get out. Like Scoob, I hear a ghost. Oh no, let's get out of here. So we're coming to the other side. Same layout as the other one. 2 staircases to the 2nd floor. Dark and creepy room right there. And then we have a whole nother row of jail cells, 2 stories of them. And luckily, we are headed toward the exit to get out of this spooky place. Hopefully none of those ghosts in there follow us home. Back there, there's another tower, so they can watch over. They don't want you to go that way. And we're gonna walk over here. There's another building that we can get a shot of. It looks like it's locked, but we'll see what's in there. And just get a shot of the inside of this building. And for some reason it's not safe to go in here, but I wanted to show you what's there. So it's dinner time. Dining Hall, 1987. From 1858 until 1904, a communal dining area was not present on the prison grounds. Inmates were required to eat all their meals within their crammed cells. Food was carried from the kitchen across to the prison yard back to the cell houses. As a result, eating a hot meal was a rare occurrence for inmates by the time they reached their cells. To make matters worse, the kitchen was in the same building as the prison hospital, which undoubtedly heightened the spread of illness through the prison. The vegetable and meat storage shared a wall with the prison morgue. We're gonna head inside the kitchen area. And we do have a couple photo ops that you can take in here. So we're gonna take some photos real quick of some of this from the Blues Brothers. And inside here we do have some artwork that was done in the walls. Got pictures from The Simpsons, Snake, some donuts from The Simpsons. There's Bart getting zapped in the electric chair. Chief Wiggum's over there. And right there we do have our Blues Brothers. And we have the kitchen tables here, the little dining tables for prisoners. As you can see, these are huge buildings where they had tons of prisoners that met in these areas. Walking through the rest of the prison. See what else we can find. This is the cistern. In February of 1857, the Board of Penitentiary Commissioners were looking for a site for the new state penitentiary. One member of his commission was Nelson D. Elwood, former mayor of Joliet, who holds significant political and economic influence. And so this was one of the industry buildings. And it looks like this is the mattress factory. And we're gonna take a look inside and see what is remaining. Not much left, and you can see the decay. This building that we're in right now, this is the processing center. There's not much left, but they used to bring people in here and get them processed for being in prison and then assign the jail cells. Right here we are going to be entering the clinical service building. Some empty rooms. This looks like someone's office that's closed off. And some doctor's offices that you can go into. And a toilet. This is the original cell from 1858. The east and west cell houses contained a total of 900 cells. Each cell was meant to hold 2 men and was 7 feet deep, 4 feet wide, and 7 feet tall. These were wooden labels on the bars and cells printed with the names and number of the inmates' houses inside. The stone floors and walls led to cells that were cold and damp in the winter and hot and humid in the summer. Inmates were provided with husk mattresses, straw pillows, and heavy woolen blankets. There was 1 shelf in the back of the cell, a couple of small stools, a small mirror, and a stoneware jug for drinking water.
Cruel and unusual punishment. Exit. Now, this is where you're at.
Take a picture.
We're gonna see you.
It's never too late to mend.
This right here, it says it's never too late to mend. North Segregation and Death Row, 1858. The building, now known as North Segregation or simply North Seg, was the distinction of the original building constructed at the Old Joliet Prison on May 22nd, 1858. 53 inmates, 50 men and 3 women, left the First State Penitentiary in Alton for this structure. Conditions at Alton had deteriorated to the point that transfers to Joliet to work on the construction of the Joliet Prison and was preferred assignment. And segregation and isolation of prisoners from the general population as a form of punishment for protective purposes was common on prison grounds. The iconic phrase carved into the floor, "is never late to mend," was meant to be an affirmation offering personal reflections for inmates. In 1927, Illinois passed the Thompson Bill, which officially replaced the state's method of execution for the gallows to the electric chair. Prior to 1928, hangings were carried out by the Will County Sheriff and performed at former county jail structures at Chicago and Washington streets. The bill further stipulated that prisoners sentenced to death outside of Cook County would have their sentence carried out at either Joliet or Chester penitentiaries, depending on where the county sent the inmates. So this prison did have prisoners that committed unaliving and were executed or unalived by electric chair. This is the Captain's Court, 1858. The 1858 North Seg building, the first building constructed at the Old Joliet Prison, contained an enclosed wall with an ornate tower structure at the northwest corner. In the location withheld the office of the prisoner's deputy warden. So here's one of the towers. Tower and tunnels, 1947 to 1951. The Old Joliet Prison faced repeated calls for its closures less than 50 years after it was opened. Cited as dirty, dangerous, and outdated, a state inspection in 1905 found that tuberculosis ran rampant in the prison, and the official reported termed the sanitation of the site repulsive, pestitile, and concluded it was a relic of barbarianism. One of Joliet's most famous prisoners, Nathan Leopold, echoed the heroic conditions when he recalled in griping detail the first time he entered the East Cell House in 1924. Fire Department, 1893. A regular organized fire department consisting of prisoners was established immediately following the arrival of the first inmates to the site. In 1886, the firefighting equipment included 16,000 feet of hose, 4 force pumps, 1 chemical engine, number 5, 14 Babcock fire extinguishers, 11 dozen water hand grenades, 10 fire buckets in all the buildings and shops. We are able to go in, so we're going to go and see what the firehouse looked like. Storage cubicles, and on the walls they would have had the hoses and all of the equipment right there. It's been emptied out, but this is the walls where everything was stored. You can see an imprint of where things actually went. Well, folks, this was it. This was the prison. I'll give you a shot of some of the stuff in the background so you can see it. But that was the tour of Joliet Prison. We are headed back to the exit and the gift shop, but before we do that, this is where the warden's house used to be, and it was torn down. It looks like it fell apart, but you can see remnants of the front porch where everything used to be. We are back in the front entrance, and this is the gift shop with things that you can buy to support this awesome place. And you could read about key dates in prison reform as well and buy your own key. Information here about the women's prison, which is across the street, which, like I said, we will come back in October for the haunted prison. Information about building a new prison, about the construction, and it's never too late to mend behind prison walls. And if you're hot, it is hot one out, so if you're out there, they do have some cool beverages. If you want to grab something on your way out, here's some shirts, magnets, and make sure to sign the logbook, which I did as the Was Up Dude. Make sure you are subscribing to more content. And before we go, make sure to always say hello to Jake and Elwood Booth.